The sun was setting over the quiet streets of Brookhaven, a neighborhood most people in the city preferred to avoid. The houses were small, some walls cracked and paint peeling, and the sidewalks were filled with the laughter of children who made games out of nothing. Among them walked a tall, skinny 16-year-old boy named Malik Turner. His worn sneakers scuffed the concrete as he hurried down the street after finishing his evening shift at a small grocery store. Malik lived with his mother in a cramped two-room apartment above a laundromat. The building always smelled like detergent and damp clothes, and the walls were thin enough for them to hear the old man next door playing the same blues record every night. His mother, Denise, worked long hours cleaning offices downtown. She always told him, "Keep your head straight, son. Life might not be fair, but it's still yours to live." Malik believed her. He didn't have much, but he had dreams, big ones. He wanted to become a paramedic one day to help people, to be the person others could count on in emergencies. After his shift, he usually took the long way home. The walk gave him time to think. That evening, the air was cool, and the street lights flickered on one by one. He had his backpack slung over his shoulder and his mind full of plans. He was saving every dollar he could from his job to buy second-hand medical books. He liked reading about first aid, learning how to treat wounds, how to keep someone breathing. Sometimes he practiced on himself, wrapping bandages or checking his pulse, pretending he was already in uniform. The neighborhood wasn't dangerous, but it wasn't exactly safe either. Malik knew which corners to avoid and which people to nod at without starting trouble. As he turned onto the empty street behind the old train station, he heard something strange, a soft sound almost like a sob. He stopped, thinking it might be a cat, but the sound came again, clearer this time. It wasn't an animal. It was a child. Malik froze for a moment. The sound seemed to be coming from the direction of an abandoned warehouse near the tracks. The place had been shut down for years. The city had promised to tear it down, but it still stood there. Dark, broken windows and graffiti covering the walls. People said strange things happened there at night. He told himself to keep walking. It wasn't his problem. He didn't want to get into something that could put him in danger. But as he took a few more steps, the cry came again, this time weaker, like someone had lost all strength. Malik's stomach tightened. He looked around. The street was empty. His hands felt cold, but something inside him whispered, "Don't just walk away." He sighed, adjusting his backpack strap, and walked toward the warehouse. The rusty gate creaked as he pushed it open. The air inside was musty and heavy with dust. Broken bottles and old crates were scattered on the floor. The last bit of sunlight filtered through the cracked windows, making strange patterns on the ground. "Hello?" Malik called softly. "Is someone there?" No answer. He waited, listening. Then from behind a pile of wooden pallets, he heard a faint whimper. Malik's heart started pounding. Slowly, he stepped closer. "Hey, it's okay. I won't hurt you," he said gently. As he peered behind the pallets, his breath caught. There, sitting on the cold floor, was a little girl. She couldn't have been older than 12. Her hands were tied with a piece of rope, and there was tape over her mouth. Her face was streaked with tears, and her clothes looked expensive but dirty, like she'd been here for days. For a moment, Malik didn't know what to do. He knelt down carefully so he wouldn't scare her. "It's okay," he whispered. "I'm gonna help you, all right?" The girl's eyes widened with fear at first, but when she saw the kindness in his face, she nodded weakly. Malik reached into his backpack and pulled out a small pocket knife he used for opening boxes at work. His hands shook as he cut the rope and gently peeled the tape from her mouth. "Are you hurt?" he asked. She coughed, her voice hoarse. "Please, they said they'd come back. I don't want them to find me." "Who?" he asked quickly. "The men. They took me. They said my daddy has to give them money." Tears ran down her cheeks again. Malik's stomach turned. He had heard on the news that the daughter of a rich businessman had been kidnapped 3 days ago. Her name was Emily Davenport. The police had been searching everywhere. He looked at her closely. Her light brown hair, the small bracelet with her name on it, and his heart nearly stopped. This was her. He glanced toward the open door. The sky outside was darker now. "We need to go," he said. "Can you walk?" She nodded, trembling. Malik helped her to her feet. She was weak and cold, so he took off his jacket and wrapped it around her shoulders. "We'll go through the back," he said. "Stay close and stay quiet." They moved carefully through the shadows, Malik leading the way. He knew a shortcut through the alley behind the building that led to the main street. Just as they were about to slip through a gap in the fence, they heard footsteps from inside the warehouse. Harsh voices echoed faintly. Malik's heart raced. He grabbed Emily's hand. "Run," he whispered. They ran as fast as they could through the dark alley, their footsteps splashing in puddles. Malik didn't look back. His lungs burned, and his heart pounded so loudly he could barely hear anything else. When they reached the corner of a closed grocery store, he stopped to catch his breath. Emily clung to his arm, shaking. "Are they coming?" she asked in a small voice. Malik looked around. The alley was empty. "No," he said softly. "We're safe now." He didn't have a phone. His had broken weeks ago. So he guided her toward a small gas station at the end of the block. There was an old payphone outside. Malik dug into his pocket for change and called 911. 911, what's your emergency?" the operator said. Malik swallowed hard. "I found the girl. The one who was kidnapped. Emily Davenport. She's with me. She's safe. Where are you right now?" the voice asked quickly. Malik gave the address and hung up. He didn't want to stay on the line too long. A few minutes later, the sound of sirens filled the air. Malik's heart raced again. Not from fear this time, but from relief. When the police arrived, Malik stepped back, letting them take over. They surrounded Emily with blankets, checking her condition. She pointed at Malik, tears filling her eyes. "He saved me," she said. "He found me." The officers turned to him. One of them, a tall woman with kind eyes, asked, "Son, is that true?" Malik nodded quietly. "I just heard her crying. I couldn't leave her there." They took his name and his mother's number. The flashing lights painted the street red and blue, and neighbors started to gather around, whispering. Malik suddenly felt small and exposed. He didn't like being the center of attention. He just wanted to go home. When his mother arrived, she ran to him, pulling him into her arms. "Oh my God, Malik," she said, tears in her eyes. "What happened?" He hugged her back tightly. "I just helped someone, Ma, that's all." The police asked him a few questions, thanked him for his courage, and promised to contact him again. Emily was taken to the hospital for a checkup, and before she left, she turned to Malik and said softly, "Thank you for saving me." That night, Malik couldn't sleep. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, his mind replaying everything. The fear, the running, the sound of her voice. He wondered who those men were and if the police would catch them. He also wondered what people would think. Would they believe him, or would they see him as just another kid from the wrong side of town? The next morning, the news was everywhere. "Millionaire's daughter found alive," the headline said. "Teenage boy rescues missing girl." Reporters stood outside their building asking questions, taking pictures. Malik tried to stay out of sight, but one reporter caught him leaving for school. "Malik, how did you find her?" "Were you scared?" she asked, shoving a microphone toward him. He didn't know what to say. "I just did what anyone should do," he mumbled. At school, everyone was talking about it. Some kids treated him like a hero, patting him on the back. Others whispered that maybe he was involved somehow. Malik ignored them. He knew what was true. That evening, as he sat on the small balcony with his mother watching the city lights, she said quietly, "I'm proud of you, son." "You did something brave." Malik smiled faintly. "I just couldn't walk away, Ma." She nodded. That's the kind of heart that changes lives. He didn't know then how much those words would come true. For now, he just felt tired and thankful that Emily was safe. The night breeze carried the sounds of the city. Sirens in the distance, laughter from the corner, and the faint hum of cars passing by. Life went on, but something inside Malik had changed. He didn't know it yet, but that single choice to follow a cry in the dark would change not only his life but many others in ways he could never imagine. The morning after the rescue, Malik woke up to the sound of voices outside their apartment window. When he peeked through the curtain, he saw a small crowd gathered below. Reporters, camera crews, and curious neighbors filled the narrow street. Some held microphones, others had flashing cameras. Malik rubbed his eyes, trying to make sense of it all. His mother knocked softly on his door. "You might want to stay inside for a bit," she said. "There's a bunch of people out there asking questions." Malik sat up, still half asleep. "They're still here?" "Looks like it," she said with a tired smile. "Word travels fast when you save a rich man's daughter." Malik sighed and leaned back on his pillow. He hadn't expected all this. The night before, he had just wanted Emily to be safe, and now it felt like the whole world suddenly knew his name. His mother had to turn off the phone after reporters started calling nonstop. Later that day, a police officer stopped by to talk to him again. This time it wasn't just any officer. It was Detective Morales, the woman who had spoken to him at the scene. She had a calm voice and a look that told Malik she trusted him. "Morning, Malik," she said kindly as she stood in the living room. "We just wanted to follow up. The men who took the girl are still being looked for. We might need you to come by the station later to give a full statement." "Sure," Malik said. "Did they find anything at that warehouse?" "Some clues, yes." "You were brave to go in there," she said. Then she smiled slightly. "Emily's been asking about you. She wants to see you when things calm down." Malik's eyebrows lifted. "Really?" "She says you made her feel safe," the detective replied. "That's something not everyone can do." After she left, Malik sat by the window watching the reporters finally leave. He felt strange, half proud, half overwhelmed. Part of him wanted to go back to his normal life, but deep down, he knew nothing would ever be quite the same again. That afternoon, when he went to the grocery store for his shift, people stopped him along the way. A woman from the next street hugged him and said, "We're proud of you, baby." A man from the barber shop shouted, "Hero of Brookhaven." Malik laughed awkwardly and kept walking. Inside the store, his boss clapped him on the back. "You did good, kid," he said. "If anyone deserves a raise, it's you." Malik smiled politely. "Thanks, sir. I was just in the right place, I guess." By the time his shift ended, he was exhausted, not from work but from all the attention. He just wanted to sit somewhere quiet, so instead of heading straight home, he walked to the small park by the river. It was peaceful there. The water reflected the orange evening sky, and children played near the swings. He sat on a bench thinking about Emily. She must be back with her family now. He tried to imagine what her life looked like. A big house, private schools, fancy cars, and people to take care of everything. It was a world so different from his that it almost didn't feel real. Yet for a brief moment in that warehouse, their worlds had collided. A few days later, Malik got a call from Detective Morales. "Emily's father wants to meet you," she said. "He's been asking since the day she got home." Malik hesitated. "Why?" "To thank you," she said. "You saved his daughter's life." That weekend, Malik and his mother were driven to a large mansion on the north side of the city. The driveway alone looked longer than their entire street. The gates opened silently, and as the car rolled in, Malik saw fountains, trimmed gardens, and a house that looked like it belonged in a movie. His mother whispered, "Lord have mercy, this place is something else." Inside, the marble floors gleamed and the walls were covered with paintings. A tall man in a gray suit walked toward them. His face looked familiar from all the news photos. Richard Davenport, one of the richest businessmen in the city. He extended his hand. "You must be Malik," he said warmly. "Thank you for what you did. My family owes you everything." Malik shook his hand nervously. "I just did what I had to, sir." Then Emily came running into the room. She looked healthier now. Clean clothes, bright eyes, her hair neatly tied back. She smiled wide when she saw Malik. "You came." "Hey, you doing okay?" he asked softly. She nodded. "Yeah, I'm not scared anymore." Her father placed a hand on her shoulder. "She's been talking about you nonstop," he said with a chuckle. "She calls you her guardian angel." Malik blushed and looked down. "I'm glad she's all right. That's what matters." Mr. Davenport invited them to sit. He asked about Malik's school, his interests, his plans for the future. When Malik mentioned wanting to become a paramedic, Mr. Davenport leaned forward. "That's a noble dream," he said. "Helping people, saving lives, that's something the world needs more of." Before they left, he handed Malik a small envelope. "It's just a token of appreciation," he said. "For your courage." Malik opened it in the car and froze. Inside was a check for $10,000. His mother gasped. "Malik, do you realize what this means?" He nodded slowly, staring at the paper in disbelief. "That's more money than we've ever seen, Ma." She looked at him proudly. "You earned it. Every bit of it." But Malik couldn't stop thinking about something else. Money was nice, but what stayed in his mind was Emily's smile and the way her father looked at her. With relief, with love. It reminded him of his own mother, how she had always protected him even when they had nothing. Over the next few weeks, Malik's life continued to change. He was invited to speak at his school assembly. The mayor sent a letter of recognition. Even strangers on the street would stop to shake his hand. Yet Malik never let it get to his head. He still took the same bus to school, still helped his mother carry groceries up the stairs, and still worked at the store on weekends. Then one afternoon, while he was stacking shelves, a man in a suit walked in asking for him. "I'm from the Davenport Foundation," he said. "Mr. Davenport would like to offer you a scholarship." Malik blinked. "A scholarship? For what?" "For anything you choose to study," the man replied. "You've shown courage and heart. Mr. Davenport believes you deserve a chance to follow your dream." That night, Malik told his mother about it. She couldn't stop smiling. "See, son? When you do good, the world finds a way to give back." He thought about that as he lay in bed later. His old textbooks were stacked neatly beside his pillow. He opened one, tracing the picture of an ambulance on the cover. Maybe one day he'd really ride in one, not as a patient or a witness, but as someone saving lives. A few days later, Malik received another surprise. Emily had sent him a handwritten letter. "Dear Malik," it began, "thank you for helping me when I was scared. I'll never forget it. My dad says you're going to do great things. I hope you do. You're my hero. Love, Emily." He read it 3 times before tucking it into his backpack. But not everything was easy. Some people in the neighborhood started whispering. A few said Malik only helped the girl because he wanted money or fame. Others said the whole story was exaggerated. It hurt him at first, but his mother reminded him, "People will always talk, good or bad. What matters is what you know in your heart." So he focused on what mattered: school, work, his future. One evening, as he walked home, he saw a police car parked near the corner. Detective Morales stepped out. "Evening, Malik," she said with a friendly smile. "We caught the men who took Emily. They're going away for a long time." Relief washed over him. "That's good news," he said. "You really did something special, you know," she added. "Not everyone would have been brave enough to step into that warehouse." Malik shrugged lightly. "I just listened to what my heart said," she smiled. "That's exactly what heroes do." That night, Malik stood on his small balcony watching the city lights again. He thought about how different life had become in just a few weeks. But deep down, he was still the same boy, still dreaming, still hopeful, still believing that even one small act of courage could change a life. He didn't know it yet, but his story was far from over. This was only the beginning of something much bigger, something that would test his strength, shape his future, and connect him to the Davenport family in ways he never expected. The weeks that followed felt like a dream Malik couldn't wake up from. Everywhere he went, people seemed to know who he was. The boy who saved the millionaire's daughter, that's what the newspapers called him. Some called him brave. Some called him lucky. But Malik didn't feel like a hero. He felt like the same boy who still had to wake up early, help his mother, and go to school like everyone else. The attention started off as exciting. For the first time in his life, people smiled at him on the street. Strangers offered to buy him lunch. Teachers spoke proudly about him in class, and his school even put up a banner that said, "Our hero, Malik Turner." But after a while, it began to feel heavy. Cameras followed him to school gates. Reporters waited outside his apartment asking the same questions again and again. "How did it feel when you found her? Were you scared? Do you think the Davenports will adopt you?" Malik would smile politely and say, "I just did what anyone should do," before rushing inside. He wasn't used to this kind of attention, and neither was his mother. She stopped answering calls from unknown numbers because so many people wanted interviews or donations. It all felt strange, like they were living in someone else's story. One afternoon, Malik came home to find his mother sitting at the kitchen table with a letter in her hands. Her face looked worried. "It's from the landlord," she said softly. "He's raising the rent again." Malik sighed and dropped his backpack. "We can manage it," he said quickly, though he wasn't sure how. "I can pick up more hours at work." But his mother shook her head. "You already do too much, baby. You've done enough." He thought about the scholarship the Davenport Foundation had promised. Maybe this was the time to tell her. "Ma," he said carefully, "Mr. Davenport's people offered to help with my school. Maybe I could use part of it to help with rent for a while." She gave him a look that was both proud and sad. "That's your future money, Malik. We'll figure this out another way. You don't owe anyone anything." He smiled faintly. But inside he wished life could be simple again. No reporters, no pressure, no worrying about money every month. The next weekend, Malik was invited to the Davenport mansion again. This time it wasn't just to visit. Mr. Davenport wanted him to attend a small event, a dinner to thank everyone who helped in the search for Emily. Malik wore his best shirt, the one his mother ironed twice just to make sure it looked neat. When he arrived, the house was filled with important-looking people, police officers, reporters, and city officials. When Mr. Davenport introduced him to the guests, everyone clapped. Emily waved from across the room, her smile bright and warm. She ran over and handed him a small drawing, 2 stick figures holding hands with a sun above them. "That's us," she said proudly. Malik laughed softly. "You're getting good at this," she grinned. "I've been practicing." Mr. Davenport put a hand on Malik's shoulder and said to the crowd, "This young man reminds us that courage doesn't come from money or power. It comes from heart. My family will never forget what he did." The room applauded again. Malik smiled politely, but he felt nervous. He wasn't used to fancy dinners or people in suits. He didn't even know which fork to use at the table. Emily noticed and whispered, "Just follow me. I'll show you." That made him laugh, and for a moment he relaxed. After dinner, Mr. Davenport took Malik aside to talk privately. "You know," he said, "I've been thinking about you a lot. You have the kind of heart I wish more people had. I want to help you, Malik, not just with school but with life. I could give you an internship at one of my offices, introduce you to people who could guide you." Malik was surprised. "Thank you, sir. I really appreciate that," Mr. Davenport smiled. "Think of it as a small step toward a big future." Over the next few weeks, Malik started visiting the Davenport offices after school. It was a new world for him. Glass buildings, polished floors, people in suits talking fast and walking even faster. Everyone treated him kindly because they knew who he was, but Malik stayed humble. He asked questions, learned about how the company worked, and always showed respect. At night, though, he'd come home to the same small apartment with the same creaky door and flickering light in the hallway. Sometimes he'd sit by the window and think about how different his 2 worlds were. One full of opportunity, the other full of struggle. He didn't want to forget where he came from, but he also didn't want to stay stuck there forever. Then came the first sign that fame could also bring trouble. One morning at school, Malik walked into the hallway and heard whispers. A group of boys stood by the lockers, scrolling on their phones. When they saw him, one of them smirked and said, "Look who it is, Mr. Hero. Bet you're rich now, huh?" Malik frowned. "I'm not rich," he said simply. Another boy laughed. "Sure you're not. I saw your picture with that millionaire's family. You probably live with them now." Malik ignored them and kept walking, but their words stung. He wasn't trying to be anyone's hero. He was just trying to do the right thing. Later that day, his teacher asked him to speak at a local youth center event about courage and kindness. Malik agreed, though he felt nervous. When the day came, he stood in front of a small crowd of kids and said, "I didn't save that girl because I wanted fame. I did it because it was the right thing to do." Sometimes helping someone can change everything, not just for them, but for you too. The room was quiet for a moment, then everyone clapped. Malik smiled. For the first time in weeks, he felt like himself again. Not a news headline, not a charity case, just Malik. Meanwhile, Mr. Davenport continued to stay in touch. He checked on Malik's progress, asked about school, and even invited him and his mother to dinner sometimes. Emily loved those nights. She and Malik would play chess or talk about school projects. Slowly, they became good friends, but not everyone approved. Some people in the media started twisting the story. Headlines began to say things like "Millionaire sponsors street kid. Is it just for public image?" Malik saw those stories and felt sick. He didn't want people thinking he was being used. He wanted them to see the truth. That kindness could come from anywhere, from anyone. One evening, Malik visited the Davenports again. He was helping Emily with her science homework when her father came into the room with a serious expression. "Malik," he said gently, "I saw those news reports. I want you to know you don't have to worry. People will talk, but I don't care what they say. You're family to us." Those words meant more to Malik than any headline or reward ever could. But fame had one more surprise waiting. A few weeks later, Malik received an invitation to appear on a morning talk show. They wanted to feature him and Emily together to tell their heartwarming story. At first, he didn't want to do it. He wasn't comfortable on camera. But Emily convinced him. "If we tell people the truth," she said, "maybe they'll stop making things up." So he agreed. On the day of the show, Malik sat under bright studio lights, feeling nervous. Emily sat beside him, smiling shyly. The host asked questions: how he found her, what it was like, how their lives changed. Malik spoke simply, honestly, from the heart. "I just heard someone crying and couldn't walk away," he said. "That's it. I didn't think about anything else. I just wanted her to be safe." When the show aired, people loved it. Messages poured in from all over the country. Some said Malik inspired them to do good. Others said he gave them hope that kindness still existed. Malik read a few messages with his mother that night, and she smiled proudly. "See, baby? You didn't just save one girl. You reminded people that there's still good in the world." Malik thought about that for a long time. Maybe his story wasn't just about luck or courage. Maybe it was about something bigger. Still, he stayed humble. He kept working at the store, studying hard, and volunteering at the local clinic on weekends. Every now and then, when he passed the old warehouse where it all began, he'd stop for a moment. The city had fenced it off now, planning to tear it down. Malik would stand there quietly, remembering that night, the fear, the choice, and how everything changed because he didn't walk away. He had no idea that his journey was still far from over. Because soon, something would happen that would test everything he had learned about courage, loyalty, and what it really meant to be part of two different worlds. Malik's life had settled into a routine, but he could feel the weight of everything that had happened slowly pressing on him. He had found comfort in the quiet moments when things were normal, walking to school, helping his mom cook dinner, and reading textbooks in his room. But even the small things began to feel different. He couldn't escape the constant buzz of the media, the endless calls, the new expectations. One morning, Malik was sitting at the kitchen table trying to study for his upcoming exams. His mother was in the living room folding clothes. The familiar sound of the TV echoed softly from the other room. Malik was just about to underline a sentence in his history book when he heard a knock on the door. It wasn't the usual knock, but a heavy, urgent one. He froze. His mother looked up from the couch. Who could that be? She stood and walked to the door, her brow furrowing. Malik's heart beat a little faster. When the door opened, he heard a man's voice, deep and calm. "Hello, I'm here to speak with Malik Turner." Malik stood up and walked into the hallway. His mother looked back at him, her face puzzled. A tall man in a black suit was standing in the doorway holding an envelope. He didn't look like a reporter, and he certainly didn't look like someone from the neighborhood. "Can I help you?" Malik asked, trying to keep his voice steady. The man smiled politely, but his eyes were serious. "I'm from the Davenport Foundation. Mr. Davenport would like to speak with you about something important." Malik felt a tightness in his chest. The Davenports had been kind to him, but he hadn't expected to be pulled into any more of their business. He glanced at his mother. "What is this about?" The man handed him the envelope. "Mr. Davenport's business partners would like to meet with you. They have a proposal." Malik took the envelope, his fingers trembling. He had no idea what was happening, but he knew it wasn't something simple. After the man left, Malik opened the envelope. Inside was a letter that read, "Dear Malik, we hope this finds you well. As we discussed previously, we have been following your progress and the positive influence you've had on those around you. Due to your unique position, we believe there is an opportunity for you to help make a larger impact. We'd like to invite you to a meeting at our corporate offices to discuss a possible role that could benefit you and your community. Please respond at your earliest convenience." It felt like a formal invitation, but the language was heavy with expectation. Malik couldn't understand what role they had in mind for him, but something in his gut told him this wasn't just about helping him anymore. That evening, Malik shared the letter with his mother. She read it quietly, her expression unreadable. "It sounds like they want to involve you in something big," she said. "Maybe you should go see what it's about." Malik nodded. He didn't know what to think. On one hand, this could be a chance to do more, to make a real difference. But on the other hand, he knew that stepping into the Davenports' world meant something would change, maybe in ways he couldn't control. The next day, he dressed carefully in a new shirt his mother had bought him and caught a cab to the Davenport corporate offices. The building was even bigger than the mansion, all glass and steel. When he walked inside, a receptionist greeted him and led him to a private conference room. It was sleek, modern, with a long table and chairs that looked more expensive than anything Malik had ever sat in before. Mr. Davenport greeted him warmly when he entered. "Malik, I'm so glad you could make it," he said. "Please have a seat." Malik sat down, his heart pounding. He wasn't sure what to expect. Mr. Davenport offered him a drink, but Malik declined. "Malik," Mr. Davenport began, "I want to start by saying we're all proud of you. You've shown an incredible amount of courage and maturity, and I believe you have a real future ahead of you." Malik nodded, unsure where this was leading. "Thank you, sir. We've been discussing something internally," Mr. Davenport continued. "We believe you could play a key role in the community. Our foundation is looking for someone who understands what it means to struggle and who is willing to take on responsibility. We want to offer you a position, a leadership role." Malik blinked. "A leadership role? What does that mean?" Mr. Davenport smiled. "We want you to be involved in shaping programs for at-risk youth. We think you could be the face of a new initiative, someone who can inspire other young people to make a change. You'll have resources, a team of people to help you, and a chance to impact lives in ways you never imagined." Malik's mind raced. A leadership role? For at-risk youth? It sounded like a dream, but also a huge responsibility. "What exactly would I be doing?" "We've already partnered with local schools, community centers, and even the city government to create mentorship programs, scholarship opportunities, and job training. We need someone who can connect with the young people who need it most. You'd be the one to lead this effort." Malik thought for a moment. This could be his chance to give back, to do something real with the attention he had received. But, at the same time, it felt like he was being pulled into a world he wasn't entirely ready for. He turned to Mr. Davenport. "I don't know if I'm the right person for this. I'm still figuring things out myself." "I understand that," Mr. Davenport said gently. "But we believe in you, Malik. You've already made an impact. This is an opportunity to do more, and you don't have to do it alone. We'll be here to support you." Malik sat back in his chair, trying to process everything. He knew this was a big decision, maybe the biggest one he had ever faced. He had to think about it, but he didn't want to let anyone down, especially the people who believed in him. That evening, he went home feeling conflicted. His mother could tell something was weighing on him. "What happened?" she asked. Malik explained everything. The offer, the position, the pressure. "I don't know if I can do it, Ma. What if I mess up?" His mother smiled softly and sat beside him. "You've always known what's right, Malik. You have a good heart, and that's all you need. If you think this is something you can do, then you do it, but remember, you don't have to do it alone. You've got people who believe in you." Her words stayed with him as he lay in bed that night. He couldn't shake the feeling that this was his moment to make a real change, not just for himself, but for the community he had always called home. He knew it wouldn't be easy, and he knew that he might fail along the way. But for the first time in a long time, Malik felt a spark of hope. The next day, Malik called Mr. Davenport. "I'm in," he said. "I'll do it." There was silence on the other end of the line before Mr. Davenport spoke. "You won't regret it, Malik. We're proud to have you on board." As Malik hung up the phone, he felt a rush of nervous excitement. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew one thing for sure. This was his chance to make a difference, and he was going to take it. But little did he know, this decision would change everything once again. There would be more challenges ahead, challenges that would test his loyalty, his heart, and his strength in ways he never imagined. The first few weeks in his new role felt overwhelming to Malik. He had expected the job with the Davenport Foundation to be challenging, but nothing could have prepared him for how much responsibility came with it. He found himself sitting in meetings with community leaders, speaking at events, and constantly trying to juggle his studies, his family, and his new role as a mentor for young people. At first it was thrilling. The work was meaningful. Malik saw firsthand how his efforts were helping others. He worked with troubled kids who reminded him of himself, kids who were struggling, who felt lost, and who didn't know where to turn. He taught them about the importance of education, discipline, and believing in themselves. And every time he saw a young face light up when they realized they had potential, it made all the pressure feel worth it. But over time, the demands began to wear him down. The expectations were high, and there was always something else to do. Another meeting to attend, another kid to check on, another event to prepare for. Malik found himself staying up late to finish his schoolwork, only to wake up early the next morning for a meeting. He felt like he was being pulled in 1,000 directions, and he wasn't sure how much longer he could keep up. One night, after a long day, Malik sat in his room staring at his textbooks but not reading. His phone buzzed on the desk. It was a text from Emily. "How's it going? You okay?" Malik stared at the message for a moment. He hadn't talked to her in a while. He had been so focused on his new role that he hadn't had time to check in. It was strange considering how close they had become since that first meeting. Emily had become a good friend, someone who understood the pressure Malik was under, someone who didn't treat him like he was a hero, but like a normal person. He quickly typed back, "It's a lot. Just need to keep going." The reply came almost immediately. "I get it, but don't forget to take care of yourself, okay? You can't help anyone if you burn out." Malik smiled faintly at the message. Emily always knew how to say the right thing. She was right, of course. He couldn't keep pushing himself like this. But as he stared out the window, the weight of everything seemed to press down on him. The people who were counting on him, the kids he was trying to help, his mother, who had sacrificed so much for him to get this far. He couldn't let them down. The next morning, Malik woke up exhausted. His phone buzzed again, this time with a call from Mr. Davenport. Malik hesitated for a moment before picking up. "Malik, how are you?" Mr. Davenport's voice was warm and friendly, but there was something in the tone that made Malik uneasy. "I'm good," Malik lied. "Busy but good." "I'm glad to hear that," Mr. Davenport said. "I wanted to check in. We've been following your progress, and I've heard nothing but good things. You're doing incredible work." Malik nodded, even though Mr. Davenport couldn't see him. "Thanks, sir." But then Mr. Davenport continued, "We've also noticed something. You've been taking on more and more, Malik. You're spreading yourself thin. I think it's time we talked about how to make this role more manageable for you. I don't want you to burn out." Malik was quiet for a moment. He hadn't realized that people were noticing how tired he was. "I'm fine," he said, trying to sound convincing. "I've got it under control." But Mr. Davenport's voice softened. "I've been there, Malik. I know how it feels when you're doing everything for everyone else and forget to take care of yourself. Maybe it's time to step back a little, reassess, and see where you can make the most impact without overloading yourself." The conversation left Malik thinking long after it ended. Maybe Mr. Davenport was right. Maybe he needed to find a balance, but how? How could he step back when so many people were relying on him? That night he sat at the kitchen table with his mother, telling her everything. She listened patiently, as she always did, and when he finished, she spoke quietly. "Malik, you don't have to do everything at once. You've always been there for others, but you have to be there for yourself, too. No one can pour from an empty cup." Malik sat back in his chair, considering her words. He had never thought of it that way. His mother always seemed to know what to say to make him see things clearly. "But I don't want to let anyone down, Ma." "You won't," she said. "You've already done more than enough. Now it's time to take care of you so you can keep helping others. Don't forget who you are in the process." The next day, Malik took a step back. He spoke to Mr. Davenport and explained that he needed to reevaluate his role. He wasn't quitting, but he needed to take on less. He focused more on his studies, his family, and the kids he worked with directly. He learned that leadership wasn't just about doing everything yourself. It was about knowing when to ask for help and when to take a break. Over the following months, Malik found a rhythm. He continued his work with the Davenport Foundation, but he delegated more. He spent more time with Emily, who had become an even better friend through all of this. Together they planned events, ran workshops for young people, and talked late into the night about their hopes for the future. One afternoon, A year after Malik had first saved Emily, he stood in front of a group of young kids at a community center. He was talking about the importance of believing in yourself, of not giving up even when things get hard. He could see the looks on their faces, the same look he had seen in his own reflection all those years ago. The look of someone who didn't know if they had a future. "I know what it feels like to think no one cares," Malik said, his voice steady. "But I'm here to tell you, you matter. Every single one of you has something special in you. It might take time to find it, but it's there, and you don't have to go through it alone." After the workshop, one of the kids came up to him, eyes shining. "Thank you, Malik. You really helped me believe I can do more." Malik smiled, his heart swelling. "I'm proud of you," he said, clapping the kid gently on the shoulder. "And I know you're going to do amazing things." That day, as he walked home, Malik thought about how far he had come. It had been a year of ups and downs, of unexpected twists and challenges. But in the end, he had found his place. He wasn't just a hero who saved someone else's daughter. He was Malik, a young man who had learned that the real power came from within, and that the most important thing was to never give up on yourself, no matter where you started. In the distance, he saw the Davenport mansion on the hill. It had been a big part of his life, but it no longer felt like the place that would define him. He was defining himself now through the work he did, the relationships he built, and the people he helped. As he walked through the door of his apartment that evening, his mother looked up from her book and smiled. "How was your day?" Malik smiled back. "It was good, Ma. It was really good." He sat down beside her, feeling a sense of peace that had been missing for so long. He had learned a lot in the past year, about courage, about leadership, and about what it really meant to help others. But the most important lesson he had learned was this: you can't save the world if you forget to save yourself first. And for the first time in a long time, Malik felt like he was exactly where he needed to be.